Here we go. Episode number 9 with arguably the most talented coach yet to grace our presence on the podcast here, Coach Jimmie Mediros from Birmingham Charter High School out in the Valley. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good. Thanks a lot.
Good. Thanks for coming on. We know you're busy. This guy coaches the California national team, coaches a championship boys and girls team out there in the LA City section. Basically, you're one of the teams that have put the city section on the map recently, Coach. You've got a lot of success on the boys side and on the girls side.
Yeah, I mean, I work really hard to try to, get these kids opportunities that, they probably wouldn't have normally. So we've had a lot of success, though. I mean, I've tried to build a certain kind of structure that is kind of like a long-term plan. If I get a kid for 4 years, I can, get them to a certain place.
Nice. So before we get started on how you run your program, which obviously it's a successful program, give us a little bit of Coach Jimmie's history, when you got started, all that stuff.
Coaching or wrestling?
Both. Let's start from the beginning. How did it begin for you?
A long road. I started when I was 8.
Let's get your dad on. Let's get your dad on here.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So yeah, my dad wanted me to wrestle when I was little, and I was kind of on the fence about it. My mom didn't want it, and they were split up, so my dad didn't really have a choice. And he would come out twice a week to take me to practice to make sure I went. And I wrestled all through junior high, elementary. Then when I was 13, I went to go live with my dad, and things got serious. And I went from 1 and 2 at Freestyle State as a down year schoolboy to being in the finals and placing in the regionals and Tulsa. And then it was nonstop from there. It was training 24/7. Yeah. And then I would say in high school, in 98, I got second state. 99, I won state. I won our section North Coast 3 times. I was third at the high school nationals. I was 6-time high school All-American, Fargo and all that. And then I went to Fresno State on a full scholarship. I started for 4 years there. I took an Olympic red shirt in 2004. I was ranked 4th at the highest. I was round away once, round away twice, or 2 rounds second time. Let's see. I'm 4th all time on the Bulldog winning list, which is cool because we have a program now, so it actually means something. Last 8 years or 10 years, it didn't mean anything, but now somebody can maybe beat it, so that's cool. And then I was ranked 7th on the Olympic ladder in 2004, and then I came to LA to direct and write, and then I got talked into coming. One of my teammates moved to LA to do singing, and he lived with me. So me and him were wrestling around, and he was like, "Hey, let's go beat up some high school kids," And I was like, "All right, sounds like a good idea." I haven't beat somebody on the head in a while, and we looked for a high school that had wrestling. We lived in North Hollywood, and North Hollywood didn't have a team. Van Nuys didn't have a team. Grant didn't have a team. We went to 6 schools without wrestling teams until we finally got to Birmingham, where the coach, who was Tony Bourne, he said, "Why don't you come in and help us out?" And we were like, "Oh, that'll be fun." And then he's like, "You guys can do anything you want," me and my college teammate. And so the first year we kind of tag teamed the program, and my buddy made a bunch of promises to the kids, and then after that year was over, he went home and kind of left me holding the bag. And next thing you know, I'm the head coach, and 8 years later, I'm here. But I did coach in college. My freshman year, I didn't qualify for school, so I was a Prop 48, which meant my grades weren't good enough. So I couldn't practice with the team. So I went to Clovis High, and I coached with them for a whole year at Clovis High. And I wrestled with Alex Terapelli and Garrett Spooner, and they got second in state that year. It was a pretty fun experience, and I learned a ton about coaching from Steve. And then when I was done wrestling, I did a grad assistant year in 2006, and I coached with Sean Charles, and then they dropped the program the next year. So I kind of hung up my shoes after that.
Okay. And then, so when you were ranked high on the ladder, was that in freestyle or in Greco?
Freestyle. Unfortunately, I wish it was Greco. I kind of got caught in this weird thing where I was a Greco kid. I came from CYC. I was All-American every year in Greco. And when you get to college, a lot of times these the guys on your team, the coaches, they're really not about Greco at all, you know. And Jerry, who was my assistant coach, refused to wrestle Greco with me, and so I was like kind of, you know, just not doing it, and so I just wrestled freestyle. And Sunkiss sponsored me to go to all the tournaments, wrestle freestyle. I did, and I kind of got out of Greco. And then in 2004, when I took the Olympic year, I kind of half-heartedly thought about going Greco, which I wish I would have committed to it fully. It was an unfortunate year for me. I broke my arm twice. I broke it in September and had a cast, then cut the cast off and went to Sunkiss in October. And I broke my arm again in January. Then I had a plate put in there. And then they took the staples out 2 weeks later. And then I went to the Olympic trials qualifier and won the regional after they took the staples out of my arm. So at the Open that year, I wasn't quite 100%.
Okay. So one of those kids that you as soon as you got the leash cut, you were running out there, huh?
You know, I was an idiot. You know, when you're young and you're stupid, you're like, I'm training for the Olympics, you know, like I can't be resting and doing nothing. So I was bench pressing with a cast, at a full cast on, and I'm bench pressing, just leveraging on the cast and doing bench and squat. And it was stupid. My arm never healed completely. So,
Oh, not good. Not good.
yeah.
All right. So Josh, go ahead. Hit him with a question.
How's your team looking this year? What do you, boys and girls? Go for it.
I think we might have our best year yet. I mean, we had just this great class of kids that have been with me for 4 years for the boys, and they're almost all seniors. It's like we probably have close to like 8, 9 seniors that are just really good kids, all section placers, state qualifiers, like some really good kids. We have a returning state placer coming back. And we're going to be really solid for the boys. The girls, same thing. We've got a lot. We have more of a mixture with the girls of seniors and underclassmen, but we have a lot of good girls this year. And I think, you know, I don't know. I don't like predictions and stuff, but I think we'll be in there. You know, we'll be knocking on the door and battling like usual.
Nice. And I know I was coaching in the city section when it first started, and it just seemed like once you guys decided to jump in on those girls, like you guys were just a freight train. You know, you just graduated. I mean, probably arguably one of the more talented girls that come out of your program, and that's pretty hard to say considering you had Lakaya Wagner, you know, but Castillo graduating, I think, you know, is a big hit to your program, but it also a big testament. Also having Lee Miracle come out and sign her.
Yeah, I mean, you know, kids like that, you know, like Lakaya, like Alex, they're just, you know, it's hard because, you know, you don't know if you're going to get those kids again. When after Lakaya left, I was kind of like, well, there was, you know, a diamond in the rough, you know. And sure enough, that same year when she graduated, Alex was a freshman, made it to state, and just showed immediately that she was born to wrestle. And, you know, when that happens, you know, you just kind of guide them in the right direction and kind of build the layers of technique. And, you know, those kind of kids will soak it up, and, you know, their ceiling of potential is endless.
Yeah. Now your program, I mean, like you said, you've got kids that will come in and actually go through all 4 years with you,
Yeah.
but you have a huge program. Like, how do you guys manage to run those numbers, you know, and still, you know, be able to focus on what the kids need to? How do you work that?
A very complicated system. You know, usually I've had a lot of coaches in the past. Last year was like a rare scenario where I was kind of down to me and another guy and a bunch of volunteers who kind of like helped us occasionally and came to tournaments. But for the most part, it was me running 2 practices back to back. Normally, what I'd do in the past was I'd have coaches run JV, flash off, second team varsity practices, and we'd have 3 practices going on at once, and there'd be 6 different practices total, and half of them would study hall, and that other half would wrestle, and then they flip flop, and then the other half would study and wrestle. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I would facilitate it, and that way I could, coach the girls differently. I mean, like you mentioned, in 2013 when the section sanctioned girls, we had 4 girls on our team that were just really dedicated. They're going to stick it out, and you were like, okay, well, these girls aren't going anywhere, so we're going to, coach them. And they just were part of our team with all the boys, and they just kind of filtered in, and I didn't really think too much of it. And then they wrestled, and then I saw how your team won that year, and San Fernando did so well, and I was like, I went and I was like, I want to win because I don't want to do anything half-assed. So I was like, we're going to recruit girls. We're going to have a full team next year. And so we come back, we had a full lineup, although most of the teams had almost a full lineup, so that really wasn't enough. I also had a couple assistants coaching the girls. And then when I went to the city championship that year, I was really frustrated with the performance that I saw and technique-wise. And I just said to myself, I was like, I have one person to blame, and that's me. If I want to have a say in how they're wrestling, I have to coach them. And so after that second year, I dedicated my time in half, and I completely down the whole season. I split my tournaments up, half with the girls, half one with the boys. And I have 2 practices, varsity girls, varsity boys, and they flip-flop. So I'll do an hour and a half with the boys, and the girls are study halling, and then the girls come in and the boys study hall or lift, and then I coach the other varsity team.
And it's interesting you say it like that too, because I think a lot of coaches, especially new coaches, when they come into wrestling, especially girls wrestling, they think the more time the better, or in volume, and I think a lot of people were surprised, and it's good to hear you say what you just said right now, because we only had an hour and 20 minutes a day with our girls at Panorama. And people were like, well, how do you get a team of girls who've never wrestled in their life, and by the second year you have state placers? How does that work? And it's like, it's only an hour and 20 minutes, but it's the quality that you put into that, giving them specifically what they need and going in there. And so, I always kind of chuckle when I see people with their 3.5, 4-hour practices, and their kids are dead, and by the end of the year they're hurting, and it's like, well, you're doing a little wrong there, but that's interesting to say. Josh, you got another one for him?
When just to follow up to that last one, when you say like recruit girls, do you mean like schools, or like I'm talking like you word of mouth girls just start? How do you get that many? I'm shocked when I hear some of these schools have that many girls. How do you get? What's your population at your school, and how do you get that many girls?
Well, one, we have a lot of kids, so there's plenty of them to go around. We have 3,500 kids ish at our school. So, but I work hard. I mean, the problem is last year we probably had 10 freshmen, but that was because I was trying to keep the numbers low because I knew I was all by myself. So I couldn't handle 100 kids like I normally have. One year we had 90 kids try out, and this year we had 75 come out. And I think I want to say we had 32 girls try out for our team this year. And honestly, what I do is there's a multitude of things. I really like, kind of like Jimmie said last week, I really get the girls and the boys invested in recruiting kids to come out for wrestling. The problem that we're up against, at least in LA, is that none of these kids have ever wrestled. Most of them have never seen a wrestling match or even know exactly what it is. So what I do is I go to the PE classes in the first week of school, and all the kids are just sitting in the gym. I roll out a mat. I pull a couple kids out of class, and they start throwing each other. They just start like throwing each other around the mat. And then all the kids are like, oh, ooh, ah. And then once I got their attention, I go to each section and I point out kids. And I'm like, hey, you thinking about coming out for wrestling? And they're like, I don't know. You know, I'm like, well, have you ever seen a wrestling match? And they're like, no. They're like, oh, well, I can't do what those guys are doing. I was like, why not? They were a freshman, 3 years ago, and they were just like you, and they didn't know anything. And now look they can wrestle. And this guy's a state qualifier. This girl's a state qualifier. Bring the girls out. And when they start throwing each other, everybody goes nuts. And I get it in their brain. And then I have the kids during our class period, they go into the other freshman classes and they talk about it. And then they kind of tell them more about it. So a lot of these kids are getting hit a couple different times with come out for wrestling. And then we had our tryouts. We keep pushing the tryout date. Then they come and we make it real fun. And then we play games and we kind of do the warm-up stuff. And, we keep most of them. This year we didn't cut that many. One year we cut 45 kids because we had to keep it under 120. So it was
Jeez.
That's a problem, right?
Kids, yeah. Jesus. I mean, Valdivia's got to worry about only one kid crying out.
Right.
That's by the way, Jimmy, how far is Birmingham from Bakersfield?
From Bakersfield, it's like an hour and a half. No, 2 hours, hour and a half. I don't know.
Well, imagine that's why.
Oh, Bowers would say that's doable. What do you think, Valdivia? I think Alyssa needs a new home.
Richard's he's a lone ranger, man. They can't go somewhere.
He's a lone wolf. So speaking of wolves, so you got Jeff Estrada coming.
Yeah.
To Birmingham. What's his role going to be with you're helping on your staff? Is he bringing other people with him? I know he kind of travels in a pack. What's the plan?
Well, I think I love Jeff. He's got a ton of energy. He reminds me of somebody that I know and love really close to me. He's exactly like my dad. So they have the same energy. So I'm used to that like my whole life. And I kind of feel like I'm kind of like the opposite of Jeff, and where maybe we counterbalance each other. Some of my criticisms that my parents give me is they say I'm not intense enough or I'm not like tough enough on the kids sometimes. So it's nice to have somebody else who has that element to complement my kind of easygoing kind of mentality. Also, the thing that I've been missing, and I was talking to Richard about this earlier, is that I've been killing myself for like 7 years now, getting kids who've never wrestled before, training them for 4 years, and getting them to, close to placing in state. I've had on the boys side, probably, 5 kids like in the match to place and not quite place. I've had a lot of girls do well, but not all like kids that I thought if I had a little longer, I probably could have made them state placers or champions, but I only had them for 3 years or 2 years. So I think Jeff brings to me the kind of element that I've been missing, which is a club and kids club to kind of build up kids that have already wrestled that I could take to the next level.
Yeah. No, and I mean it's crazy to think that you were having to do all that on your own, but now with support, I mean, really can only imagine the success your program could have now. I mean, I don't know Jeff. I always say I don't know Jeff. I've had one text conversation with the guy, but it's hard to imagine you having more success than you've already had. But having that backup, I'm sure, is going to take a lot of load off you that you've had to bear, being the head coach and being the head technician.
I mean, and even Jeff was telling me, like one of his goals is kind of take a lot of like time and stress off of me as far as, having to run every club practice, having to run every practice, having to do 2 practices back to back and then a club, and morning practice at 6 o'clock where we do lifting. It's like sometimes when I was working at the school, I was there, 16, 17 hours a day. And now I'm running my own business. So I'm at home most of the time, and I'm writing and directing movies and things like that. So like I'm really busy, and having someone like Jeff can afford me the ability to kind of not have to be 120% in and killing myself just to like kind of get as far as everybody else is, you know.
Yeah. So with Jeff, is he bringing extra coaches with him? Is it just him? Like, how's that working?
Uh, well, right now he's bringing Jake with him, so it's a slow process the way we're gonna work. He's starting SotlA with us, and he's basically taking over my club, and he's going to run the club 2 days a week for right now, and he's going to try to build it up so then we could probably go more days, and different levels of kids as far as ages. But right now we're just kind of we're starting with 3 days a week. He's going to come in, help with the practice at the school, run our club, and we're starting there, and we're going to see how that goes and build on it.
So your kids club, what was the name of your kids club?
Oh, the one I had previous?
Yeah, previous.
It was just Team Patriot. You know, I don't even know. I never really cared about the club, really. I mean, the kids would use different names, but we just had our own club that I opened the room and got another practice for the kids and could help their little brothers and sisters kind of learn how to wrestle.
Yeah, because I know out there you have LA Wrestling Club, you have Great 1-8, you have Tigers. So it seems like that valley is gone from, really kind of overlooked section
Yeah.
to, and it's not sleeping on Palisades or Bell or any of those other programs that are growing, but really that valley is really becoming a real hotbed for wrestling. Between you and of course San Fernando, and then I know he's not in the LA section, but Valencia High School, all those areas were kind of forgotten about for a long time. And now you look at Fargo and you look at the heavyweights, the upper weight girls, and we got 6 girls that are in the top 3 in the country, all living within 5 miles of each other. It's
I mean, I did a Fargo training camp probably about 3 or 4 days before we left for Fargo, and it was like 2-a-days in freestyle and Greco, and all those girls came down, and we had a great room with Katia, Lena, and Alex, and all them, and they were just battling, and sitting there training and wrestling and getting ready for Fargo, and it's really nice to have like good competition, right before we go to Fargo, and they're training, working on the techniques, and helping each other, and it was really nice.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider that really the San Gabriel Valley has been that hotbed for a long time, where people kind of imagine all the talent to be in Southern California, and it has been arguably for a long time. But now, like I said, the city section and the city section too has really been kind of ahead of the game, in terms of like segregating the girls from the boys, and okay, girls only wrestle girls in this section, and whereas I think honestly that's what helps. And you said it yourself. As soon as you got there and you realized there was separate girls, you immediately were like, I'm winning a championship. Whether it's boys or girls, I coach wrestling, and I'm looking for a ring. I think that if other sections followed that suit, I think that the sport would only grow. If you just separate them, give them their own thing. And I know a lot of coaches are clamoring for a separate season entirely. I think this is at least a nice middle ground of like, hey, you know what? They're not going to give a separate season. Just boom, split it. They're no longer allowed to, and move forward. Now you have some talented girls that come in. How do you feel about those girls wrestling boys in high school during the season? When you have somebody like Katie coming in, and Castillo and Lakaya. I know Lakaya wrestled a lot of boys early on. How do you feel about that now that you're a girls coach also?
I think it's not so black and white. I think for the reasons that people like them to wrestle boys, I do as well. And for the reasons I like them not to wrestle with the boys, is also an element that that is important to me. One, I don't want a distraction, so I like to separate the girls. Although I mix them a lot, and I try to pick and choose when I put them together and when they wrestle each other. Number one, club is kind of the way I have them wrestle each other. during the practices when we're learning techniques over the years, when I started, I write a practice plan for each practice and I map out every minute of the practice so that I can get the most technique and the most out of that hour and a half of time. And so usually I don't wrestle live in our practice much at all. I save it for club and I encourage them to come to club and get another practice if they really want to wrestle live. And that's when they kind of get the opportunity to wrestle the boys. But what I noticed was when I first started, I wrote the same practice plan for both boys and girls. And then I did, a series of setups. And when I did it with the boys, we went 1 setup, 2 setup, 3 setup, 4 setup. And we kind of got through all of them. And then when I got to the girls' practice, it was like 1 setup. And then they were perfectionists. They go, my elbow in the right place? How do I put my hand? Watch me do it. And then next thing you know, I'm like, practice is almost over. We got through 1 setup. So I realized that the way that they learn is different, and that some of the moves that they do are just a little different. There's some moves that, because of the way they're built, it's not as easy for girls to do, or it's better for girls to do. So I kind of changed the strategy of the moves I taught them and the way I taught them. And I had so much more success once I did that. So I kind of think teaching the technique, I like them separate because they don't get distracted by each other and they're just focused on learning. But then when we wrestle live, I do Fridays. Almost every Friday I do a tournament at our team. Since we have a lot of kids and we're like 8 deep in some weight classes, I have sometimes little brackets. I post them on the wall. I tend to pull I do different scenarios, sometimes JV versus JV, varsity versus varsity. I do round robins. Sometimes I'll do like a 32-man bracket, and it'll be girls, boys, JV, varsity, all mixed. And sometimes I'll make the girls get like weight allowance against the boys to kind of even the playing field. Sometimes I'll put JV boys against the varsity girls. Usually they kill them though, and but it's kind of nice for them. And it's nice for the guys, too, to kind of get over getting beat by a girl sometimes. So when the varsity girl's really good and she's a state placer and she just stumped you, it's nothing to be sad about. You're like, oh, she's really good. She's been wrestling a long time. So I do a lot of that kind of mixture stuff. Someone like Katie, I need to challenge her constantly. So when we do wrestle live, she will wrestle the boys a lot. She already does. But when we're working on the technique from day to day, it'll be mainly girls. And then when we get the club scenarios, she'll wrestle the boys. So that's kind of how I figure a way to kind of keep them separate, but keep them together and kind of get the best of both worlds. If that makes sense, I guess.
No, it does for sure. Now, could you kind of take us through kind of like some of your heavy hitters coming in this year?
For girls or boys?
Yeah, for both girls and boys.
Well, for boys, Rocky Roman, he's a 2-time section champ and state qualifier. He's coming back at 113, 120-ish. We have Diego Nava, who's a 2-time, got 4th and 2nd in the section last year. He's really good, probably hardest working kid on our team. We also have John Smith, who is a returning state placer and Fargo All-American. He's really focused on winning the Olympics, he told me, which I said, let's worry about state first, but he's a character, that's for sure. He said, don't tell me about anybody in high school. I want to win the Olympics. I said, but you're not, at that level yet. He's like, I don't care. I said, all right, buddy. And then all of our upper weights are pretty good. We had Moses Trujillo was in the finals last year. And then we had 2 other guys that they kind of didn't wrestle last year. One didn't make grades. The other one got beat out for a spot, but I think they'll both be at state this year. So, we're pretty solid all the way through. Girls, we have a lot of good girls. We had a girl at 106 last year. She got 3rd in the city, Giselle. And then probably Veronica. She's got 2nd in the section twice. Really tough girl. She was 111 last year, 106 the year before. She went to state this last year. Then we have Aaliyah, who is All-American at Folkstyle and Fargo. So she's really good.
Is she the one that we wrestled at state?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That girl, she's just on your legs like all day. Like, and she's so long. She hits that shot. Those arms just like whoa, and it's like, oh my god, you can't beat that girl off. Like you can hip her, you can hip her, feed her hips, and she's just got a really good. She's got like those Ed Ruth arms.
And she's in great shape too. She just keeps shooting and shooting. I had to try to tell her before we went to Fargo, I was like, stop shooting. I said, move her, create an angle, and then shoot her out of bounds. When you get to the zone, then shoot her out and get one at least. I said, you might still score, but as long as you're getting one, you're not wasting your shot. Because at freestyle state, she's shooting in the middle of the mat and then trying to drive across the mat, wasting all of her energy. And she beat she wrestled at Folkstyle Nationals. She got 8th, kind of snuck in there. And I just started working with her. And then over the period of time, the girl who won Folkstyle, she wrestled twice at Fargo and almost teched her for the 5th place match, and just was like too much for that girl. Good hand motion, good setups, good shots. Like she's so talented. Like I don't know how good she's gonna be, but I think she's gonna be up there if you just give her a little more time and a little bit more technique. Who knows? Sky's the limit.
Yeah. So I mean that right there is already 2 big hammers with her and Katie. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about it, Josh and Rich? I mean, if you have 2 legitimate state placers this year at state, it's looking like you're in contention. I mean, did someone graduated a lot, right? And then they lost Morales. I mean,
they have, they got 3 returning placers, but I hear they have more people coming in. So, it's always going to be a challenge. I mean, I think what I really like is I have a girl who didn't go to state last year, but she was in the finals, and really talented girl named Destiny. Her dad unfortunately passed away right around the section. She wrestled anyway and wrestled like a champ, and couldn't go to state because of the funeral, but let the other girl go. But I really felt like she could have been right there at like 137. She was right in there as far as placing. And this year she's a senior, and we have like Ziana Cabrera is really good she was at 31. She won 2 matches at state. She's pretty tough. Tiffany Calderon, she was a 2-time state qualifier at 150. So yeah, I mean, we got a lot of girls. I'm really excited about the freshman girls that just tried out. I mean, we had 35 freshman girls come in. So it was exciting. Awesome. I saw a girl who looks exactly like Lakaya in the tryouts and was so talented. I was like, oh, please, God. Like,
does she have that ability, though? I mean, you and I talked about it on the phone. Like, does she have it?
From the tryout, from what I saw, we played the toe touch game, and they were just touching each other's toes, and she ankle picked a girl. And I'm like, who taught you how to do an ankle pick? She's like, I don't know, it made sense.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, Jimmie and I had like a 20, 30-minute conversation earlier this weekend, and we were talking about it. And Josh, do you know what it is?
No, tell me.
It is like the intangible. It's something that like you see a kid out there and it's like their first day of practice, and for some reason they just fight off positions that most new kids like fall over with. They fight it just a little bit longer. They react just a little bit different. They have it. Like I don't even know what it is. I mean the last time I really saw it when I was coaching was with Grecia over at Panorama, and then she followed me to West Covina. It was just it. Like I didn't know what it was. The kid came in, had no idea what wrestling was, and then she's out there. And I don't like the girls to go live too soon because I don't want them, 1, getting hurt, or 2, getting discouraged. But she wanted to go right away, so I just said, okay, play around. They'll get hurt, and she's just fighting position off. Just they're shooting, and she's just a natural overhook and hipping girls, and I'm like, oh man, like she's got it.
Yeah.
And
I call it that killer instinct,
Yeah. And I think killer instinct to me is like comes a little bit later when you see them in a tight match and they don't give it up. if it's a squeaker, they're good there, they're comfortable.
Yeah.
But the it is just something that you can't coach it. You can't coach it. It's just there, and you can't get around it. So, so with the team this year, and adding Wolf to the whole situation, I mean, how do you think long term you see this working out? Because I know Wolf seems like he's kind of everywhere, right? He's kind of got sought in a couple different places. He's
boat, he's fishing somewhere. He's all over the place.
He's broken down on a bus, asking somebody to help hook him up. He's he's everywhere. So, I mean, how do you see this, playing out, for the long term?
Well, Jeff's really, dedicated to trying to kind of set some roots down. Although he doesn't always act like it, but he wants to kind of, he claims he wants to be in LA for 10 years. He wants to settle. He wants to kind of be in one spot. But at the same time, I'm realistic to knowing that you got to let Jeff be Jeff. And he's got a hustle that's you can't compare to anything. He's, 100% in all the time. He's going to travel. He's going to drive. He's going to take kids. He's going to train kids. He's going to bring kids all over the country to make them the best they can be. And I'm just going to try to embrace, Jeff and who he is and what he does well. And, and try to find, kind of some kind of like, medium between us. And, he compliments me and I compliment him and kind of hopefully, build the great program.
Nice. So, Jimmie, you've been coaching the girls' California team now for a couple years. How long have you been doing that?
Well, I haven't actually ever really. I'm not on the staff, if that makes any sense. I'm on the boys' staff. Technically, I'm the Greco coach. But I always have girls on the team, and Mike and Melinda are really good friends of mine. Melinda's from my area back when we were wrestling at the same time. And I knew her at the training center and stuff like that back in, the thousands. They've always kind of reached out to me to help a little bit, when I'm there. And, you guys have talked about it. They're outnumbered, it's, there's a lot of kids and, I always help them. And Mike always asked me to come in and show some stuff. He likes me to show Greco and stuff like Mario would love because Mike's on board for girls Greco. So, he always wants me to show some specific stuff for Fargo and all that stuff. So I like to help whenever I can. I've really enjoyed helping the girls, coaching the girls at Fargo whenever I get a chance. Sometimes it's really hard for me because for instance, this year, the way the schedule worked out with Greco being second, I'm having kids like boys wrestling freestyle, girls wrestling freestyle in the same session while I'm running a practice back in the wrestling room. And so, when I had time to eat lunch, I was coaching my practice and then not eating and running back to, coach girls and boys. And it's like a crazy 10 days of exhaustion.
Yeah. No, I know that we did a survey and the survey is actually overwhelmingly positive. We sent it out to a lot of the kids and their parents, to just kind of give us some feedback in terms of what their experience was like, the goods, the bads, the uglies, that kind of stuff. And to be honest, there really wasn't a whole lot of uglies. It was overwhelmingly positive in terms of their impressions, whether or not they'd go back. And Coach Jimmie was even some of the girls' favorite coaches. We
really okay.
we didn't want to, we weren't trying to be negative or anything. We just wanted to get a good idea of what experiences the kids had and stuff like that. And I'm trying to pull it up right now. I could actually show it on the screen if I can get this going right here.
I could tell you.
I know you're my daughter's favorite coach. So.
Well, she's a great kid, so it's easy.
She's like, Jimmie got to throw the block.
Oh yeah. I threw the block so much.
Jimmie will throw that block. If there's a 4-point move being scored, Jimmie's against his kid, Jimmie's throwing that block. You can bet bottom dollar Jimmie is throwing that block. Okay, so
he wins all the time too.
I won a lot of block tosses. This year I kind of had a couple that I really was like really bothered me. A couple block tosses or no block tosses where we're in a tight match, 1-to-1 match, and you got to ask yourself, like, I didn't think that should have been scored, but I lost a bunch of blocks tosses in a row, and I stopped throwing it as much because some of the refs were like not changing their mind no matter what the video showed them. So it was like, I don't want to risk losing a point in a 1-point match,
Yeah. Right. So I'm showing everybody who's watching the video right now. Out of all the girls, we've had 23 responses. 69% were cadet, 30% were juniors. Let's see here. The styles that kids did, it's pretty close to 50-50 in terms of doing both cadet and junior. Then we kind of go down. I won't bore you guys too much with it, but overall the ratings for the coaches are actually pretty good. You got 50%. They gave the coaching staff a 5-star rating. 21% more gave it a 4-star, and 13% more. So you're looking already at over 75%. Giving the coaching staff 3 stars or better. So that's pretty good. Considering that there's a lot of things going on, a lot of coaches having to run around, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jimmie.
I was going to say, I could tell you from an outsider perspective of like, from when I first, went to Fargo and I had girls on the team, as being like a boys coach, I started just kind of tagging along a little bit with Mike and watching how it all worked, and I helped at some of their practices and just kind of would show 1 or 2 moves. Like the first year I just showed a couple moves. I didn't really run any practices, and then I would run a practice or 2, but I would tell you from an outside perspective looking in, I thought that like the experience for the girls was tremendous. I mean, Mike went out of his way to make it fun for them. They do these team bonding stuff when they have downtime. They would play games with each other. He forces them to be in rooms with people that they would never know. And then, my girls are coming back going, oh my gosh, my best friend from Sacramento and my best friend from, somewhere else in the state in Northern California who now they see at tournaments. And he really did a good job, I thought, of making them come together and making it more of an experience than just a tournament. Where on the boys' side, during the downtime, they're just sleeping in their room or playing ping pong. And there's no kind of and not necessarily that the boys would want to do, team building or games or anything like that. But it's just such a different experience. And I feel like that's why everyone wants to go to Fargo. The girls are fighting to go to Fargo typically in the past because it's such a fun experience. And, part of that is Mike making it a really interactive kind of thing that I enjoyed kind of as being an outside, looker on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of torn in the middle about everything because when my daughter started wrestling and Fargo and I first started being introduced to Fargo and stuff, right now it seems like we take so many girls, and you've kind of watered down that exclusivity of being on the national team. When you're taking that many girls, it used to be, you saw that Fargo jacket and it meant something. It was like, ooh, that's a bad girl, and you kind of, you watch that girl walk into the mat. You're like, ooh, okay, she's got a Fargo jacket on. Let me sit back and watch this. Right. And then you had Audrey Morehouse and Victoria Anthony and Amanda Hindi and Tatiana Padilla. You had all these hammers coming in, and they was like, whoa, yeah, that now you see some girls and you're like, okay, yeah, they're on the Fargo team. I don't necessarily feel like anymore like that, it's that exclusivity anymore. What do you think, Josh?
I think based on the number of girls that are wrestling, we're well represented, and we've earned those spots that we get. to send the girls. So I think that we proved just based on the number of placers and girls that came close to placing that we're taking enough people. I'd like to see if we could get 10 more coaches on the staff. I'd like to get another 10% of the girls get to go. I think the more the merrier. I say we, give as many girls that exposure, that opportunity to go on that national scene, get that vibe. Maybe they can't go to Body Bar. Maybe I understand there's the cost. It's inhibitive, but there's ways to pay for it. Fundraising, whatever. I mean, if you want to go and you're serious about it, you're going to figure out a way to go.
But even at that, like you said, there's other national tournaments.
Yeah, but there's one every weekend. If you
but why not have one that's more exclusive? That's more to keep that premium. I mean, USA Wrestling could say, we won worlds, we should have 2 guys per weight class. Okay, great, that would be great, but then it waters down the idea of being the Olympian. You know what I'm saying? Making the world team.
I think the day that we're in right now is everything's watered down. I mean, we can compare versus, when I was in high school, there was 1 national tournament and you had to be a senior. Now there's 3 and every grade can go to every one of them. Mm-hmm. And so, things have just gotten watered down. I mean, you talk about the Fargo jacket meaning something. I agree with that sentiment. Like I used to like the Fargo singlet. You saw a kid wearing it. And then you're like, oh, shoot, he's a Fargo team member. He's really tough. And now you can buy it at the stand. Everybody can buy the singlet. Little kids wear the Fargo singlet. It has no importance. But I don't think that's really what it's about at the end of the day. I mean, I'm a very nostalgic person also, as far as those kinds of things and prestige. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about a tournament like Fargo, the way you win Fargo is with numbers. Illinois does it. They have double the number than any other state. They send all their kids to the regionals, through the qualifications, and they just hammer us with placers at every weight, and they win. And
but that's the thing too.
We're a greedy state, and we want to win girls every single time. And guess what? If we don't, everybody gets pissed.
That's what we were saying too in a previous podcast, and I know you listen, and we're grateful you listen. That's for sure. Why aren't we just taking every state gets top 2? You get 2 girls, 3 girls, whatever. Set a number, and let's make this about the quality of the state, and not necessarily about a numbers game. I mean, like you said too, like in the city. Like you had 8 solid girls, but you just didn't have the numbers to win. And it's like, okay, like to me. Like, let's have an event that's strictly prestige, like, okay, this is the best of the best. Because I don't know, I guess
like what are you talking about? Like Body Bar?
No, Body Bar. Anybody can go to Body Bar.
Right. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
So why not make Fargo the elite one where, okay, you got to qualify through your state, because there's a process to qualify for Fargo. There's not a process to qualify for Body Bar. So make it the elite of the elite and go, or make Body Bar it. But have something that we know that is the cream of the crop. That is the best of the best.
It's a money pit.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. Richard's right. Like, it's about money. I mean, they want more people in the tournament, so they're gonna promote and inspire more numbers as best way they can.
Well, let's talk about that then. On that money pit, how do you feel about them combining girls and boys state? And the idea of making kids make weight, 3 days in a row.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fan of 3-day weigh-ins, but honestly, we did it at the NCAAs. If you're holding your weight down, it's just another thing to manage. I don't think it's a make or break anything. I'm on the fence. I think there's good and bad to it. I think everybody's all about the raised stage, and all that stuff. And yes, I do like it. And I think it's sad that it won't be happening. But at the same time, oh, well, I think there's positive for the girls and there's negative. I think they had their own space and that was nice, but it felt like a JV tournament compared to the boys. And I remember sitting there 2 years ago and we were in first place at the girls' state meet and all their computers broke down. And we waited for 20 minutes for them to handwrite the team score so I could see what place we were at the end of the day. Never has that ever happened at the boys' state since I've ever been there. And, the score's running across the top and it's done really well. I felt like the girls needed that same element. And not only what best to kind of open up everybody's eyes to how far ahead of the curve California is, and get those people who are not on board, get them on board by forcing them to watch the girls at state and see how our elite girls wrestle. And let's promote them in the same way we do the boys and give them the same stage. And I don't know how it's all going to work out. I mean, I personally, for a selfish reason, don't like it because I could possibly have 20 kids at state and I don't know how in the world I'm going to coach them. Like, I don't want to miss important matches for either boys or girls. And I don't know how I'm going to physically, do that.
Well, I mean, that fiscally too. I mean, I hear the complaint that, oh, well, you got to pay these union, set up people to set it up. But it's like, well, hold on. You got parents paying for more days to be at the event. You got parking. You got concessions. You got all these things that they're going to be making more money on. Why not set up 2 stages and just give them both of it? Give them both that. I mean, at the very least, you're forcing these parents to. And here's the other thing too, from what I'm hearing, people booking hotels, you have to book for the whole weekend, or you can't book. And it's like that's a lot of money, for mom and dad and everybody who wants to go watch little Susie or little Joey, or Susie and Joey and one family go.
But that's no problem for Birmingham. They have a lot of money, from what I hear.
Well, I mean, about the money part, I guess when you're thinking about a team and sending we send the kids on a charter bus to Visalia and hotels and all that stuff, and then the next week we do it again in Bakersfield. So you're kind of paying double in that aspect, and this time we're getting the same amount of rooms, just one bus. So I guess we save money in that.
Yeah, because you guys do one room for every per wrestler or something like that at Birmingham.
Our school is really weird about it. They want every kid to have their own bed. So usually it's 2 kids per room. So we have to get a lot of rooms.
And they pay for it too. Jimmie's got support in his school. He's done a good job because when I went there once just to hop by and I seen this practice, I'm like, good Lord, how many mats do you guys have? How many, you guys got a lot going on there. It's crazy.
Well, it's funny. When I got there, we had 15 kids on the team. We had a $500 budget. We had 1 coaching stipend, and I was there, and then I met with the athletic director, and after my first year there, everybody was trying to recruit me to go to their school, and I sat down with the AD and I told him, these are things I need to build a championship program, and I'm not going to be anywhere if I can't build a championship program. So I said, I needed transportation, I needed more coaching stipends, I need a bigger budget, all these things. And he said, yes. And then they restructured how they paid for all the sports and the stipends. And some of the people at our school get a little mad because the wrestling team gets just about as much as baseball and football. Well, not quite as much as football, but we're up there. I mean, we pay almost just as many coaches and all that kind of stuff. So
good Lord,
we're doing good.
Yeah.
That's why I never wanted to leave too. People kept trying to get me to go somewhere else. But at the same time, I'm like, where am I going to find administration that's 100% behind me? A school that has money and is willing to spend it on wrestling, and be able to give me all the elements that I need to be successful. So,
hey, Jimmy, I know you don't have them all on right now, but does your hand ever get heavy? All them rings you always have on?
Our school, that's a good positive thing about our school too, is they buy us rings when we win the section and when we win the duels. So yeah, we get a lot of rings. I've got a whole my girlfriend bought me a ring box, so now I can put them all in the box.
Geez, must be nice. When Panorama won it, we literally had to pay for it out of our own pocket. It was insane. Yeah. Abby fought with them tooth and nail, and dude, it came out to a lot of money. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. We didn't even get a banner. I don't even think they still have a banner. They didn't even get a banner for winning city. And I'm like, this is insane.
They love our banners at our school. They can't wait to put up a banner. The day after you win, they put the banner up. I'm like, how the heck did you do that?
Hey, Birmingham buys so many rings from Jostens, they get a volume discount, right, Jimmy?
The Jostens lady, she hooked me up so good this year. I mean, she gave us such a good deal. I've done 8 rings with her now. So she loves me, and I'm constantly going to her. The baseball team goes to somebody else. So yeah, for our dual team, I really wanted every kid on our dual team to get a ring and to be able to have it and not have to pay for it. So, or any of it, because our kids sometimes are so poor that they won't they won't come up with any money. If you're like, oh, $100, that's not that much. So we paid half of the ring for them, and they had to come up with like another. We got it for a good deal, and then they had to come up with like $50 on their own. So we gave them T-shirts to sell, and then they sold the shirts, and all the kids got a ring for the duels, the girls and the boys.
That's solid. So transfer rumors. You guys gonna get Osteen?
No, I don't think so. I mean, she showed up, that'd be one thing, but I'm pretty sure, like they're kind of locked in at Chaminade. Her mom's 100% about what do you call
Ivy
it? Private
League,
schools.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
but Ivy League.
They're private all the way, and that's kind of one of those things. That's probably never going to change.
Yeah.
Who do you think your guys' biggest competition is this year for the girls? And you guys have any friendly rivals over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think San Fernando is they're our rival all the way around. They do a good job. They have a great kids program, and they have just so many talented girls that come through there. They're gonna challenge us at the city and at state. I know in the state level, you can never count out Selma. They've got 3 returning placers, and who knows who else. That's kind of the tough part about, I think, these days, girls wrestling. I think because, like you guys had talked about in a couple previous podcasts about how, there's a lot of girls out there with 1 girl on a team, 2 girls on a team, and they're really not getting a full experience. A lot of them may be at good programs, but the coaches aren't on board for girls wrestling. So you got a dad coaching them. You got, assistant coach, a young JV coach coaching them. And so they're not getting a full experience, and they're not getting the full opportunity. So you got a lot of parents, trying to find a better opportunity for their kid. And you never know where they're going to end up, So, this day and age, you go, oh, this guy, these ones graduated. So, this team shouldn't have anybody coming back. That's not the case anymore, So I think, the perennial teams like Del Oro always have really good kids. They have a big program. Tokay is always good. I don't know what their lineup looks like anymore. I know Corona has a great program with Jimmie and, James Logan. Albany, I think. Watch out for Albany because they had 3 All-Americans at Folkstyle Nationals that were all cadets. 2 wrestled each other in the finals, and they were both state placers. So they're really young team, but Jason and Melinda are doing a great job over there, and they're really building those girls up. So North Coast should have a couple good teams, and Newark Memorial has a couple really good girls. So I don't know. There's a lot of talent out there, and I think it's interesting because 2016 we had a really close state battle between about 4 or 5 teams, and everybody had 2 placers, 3 placers, maybe 4 was the most, or 5, and now it could be more than that. You never know. You might have to score a lot of points to win.
Yeah. No, it's hard to tell this year, like I said, because it seems like if you have 2 girls, you're going to be in the middle of it. You're going to be right in the thick of things. But having the expanded brackets, having more people get more kids in, I think it's going to definitely be an interesting race by the time state gets around and how many people qualify. Northview always puts through a bunch of kids, and they always seem to come on at the end of the year. Corona's always there. Selma's always there. Albany's won it before, so Jason knows what he's doing. Does a good job. But yeah, I think it's probably ripe for the picking for a city section to sneak in and win themselves a state title.
Yeah, I mean, San Fernando has 2 in the top 3 coming back, and I know a lot of young girls coming in, so they're going to be good.
How many does the LA section get for girls?
Last year was the first year they let us take 2, and we had like 3 of our second placers place. 1 was in the finals. So I think with the expansion, I don't know if it's set in stone yet, but we're going to get 3, I think. 3 or 2 still.
Because I heard 3, but that I don't know if it's just the boys or they're going to let the girls do that too, but LA will take any weight class that Oakland or can't fill.
Yeah, we already had that. Yeah, we've had that in the past, which we, for the boys, got like 1 qualifier, 2 qualifiers maybe. But it's not a very consistent, you know.
They need to do away with that stupid section, both those up there.
Well, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, for all the sports involved, they're never going to switch the sections. People have been talking about for, you know, ever. Oh, we should combine Oakland with North Coast and San Francisco. And, you know, they've even said LA should be a part of, you know, Southern. It's like Southern needs more teams, you know. But it's just kind of the way it works for all the athletics. Like, they'll never, you know, basketball-wise and football-wise, they'll never combine them. So we should just get over it and move on with their life.
Well, I think it's funny because it's like you have some sections, they always manipulate the numbers. There's people that have a say in girls wrestling. Some of them aren't even really involved too much in girls wrestling anymore, but they still have a say, and they manipulate the numbers to make sure that some sections still retain or, you know, maintain their number of qualifiers. And I remember being in LA and arguing that, like, look, you know, how are you going to have you know, you have 2 girls in the LA City section that are ranked in state, you know,
2.
Yeah,
2016,
you know,
right?
Yeah. And it's like, how, and only one of them is going to get to go to state. Like, how does that work? And meanwhile, you look at some of these other sections and it's like, there's nobody there, you know, and it suffered, you know, the city suffered because here they are, you know, if these girls had just one went up, one went down, whatever, you guys would have added another state placer and you would have had a bigger allotment anyways, you know, but instead the young lady got to sit home, you know, when, you know, really it shouldn't have been that way. So,
well, you know, in, you know, 4 years in a row, we had so many placers, and they had told us that we had, you know, we had to get something like 9 or 8.3 placers, and we had 8, but we didn't have the 0.3 that we needed, so we needed 9 placers, which to me was silly, since, you know, how are you going to get a point, half a placer, you know? So they finally, because they did that to us 2 years in a row where we had a third of a placer we needed, and they didn't give us a qualifier. So this year they added an extra qualifier, and there's 25 girls in the bracket this year, and we got 2.
Yeah, no, that's good. You know, it's good to see that, and seeing some of the schools too that hadn't had girls qualify before. I mean, seeing Monroe come through and have a girl get through and have a breakout year, and having now 2 girls make it onto the Fargo, you know, stage. You know, it's good to see that growth. It's good for the city. It's good for wrestling in general, I think. So.
Yeah, they're gonna have 2 placers next year, probably. You know, probably both in the top.
Those girls are hammers, and it's so fun. Like I love having them on the club, because they're so coachable. They're good kids. They're kind of goofy. They're fun to be around.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but they are hammers. When it's time to work, those girls work. You know,
they're real sweet girls, and then, like, you know, when they get out there, like, mean. You know.
Yeah.
I know. When Alex kept wrestling the Monroe girl, she almost hyperextended her knee in the duels, and I was like worried she's gonna hurt her. I was like, you know, just let her go, you know? Because she was going for blood, and we're like, geez.
Yeah, no, they come out to play, and their state match, the freestyle state match, that was a burner. That was I didn't know she could go with her, and man, they were going, and I was like, good Lord, like they both left it out there. Like that was a fun match.
Well, I told Alex too, because, you know, we've wrestled her a lot, you know, throughout the years, and she's done really good against her, but she's smart. She's gotten better. She's started to evolve a little bit. And we've wrestled her 3 times this year, and she's changed what she did. She didn't do the same thing anymore. And Alex was still trying to do the same old stuff that she was getting on her before. And, somewhere in the middle of the match, I had to yell at her and say, stop shooting. Like, stop.
Yeah.
She will not shoot on you. So just push her out. And then that's what she started doing. And she took the match away. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I think
it was a score.
Was it? It was like a 1-point match or criteria match, right? I mean, it was
close.
Yeah, it was
definitely close.
Like they were hammering each other, and neither one of them backing down either. Neither one of them giving an inch.
Well, that's the thing. She kept trying to score, and she was down, and then I was like, stop, score a different way. Like, stop shooting on her. And so she did, and she scored, and she got a couple, like a push out, and, so she won the match. But, it's good to see them battle. Like, Alex got put on her back twice this year, and it was good for her. I had Lakaya, who pinned everybody in the first period, and when she was a sophomore, and she pinned everybody at nationals, and she was it was hard to motivate her after that. Like, how do I tell her, you didn't work crazy hard, you did the bare minimum, and you pinned everybody, and you're only a sophomore. So what do I do the next 2 years? It's hard to get her to to do anything. When it comes easy, but when they get adversity, that's what drives them to keep working. The battles we had with Burton last year, gave her so much character.
Yeah, and that was sad actually to see Burton not around this year, because he's a hammer, and she was so good. And her and Alex getting out there and not having her this year, it really was a loss for the state. And as a fan, because she's another good wrestler for a big girl, a good wrestler. So
I mean, she made us have to think and work hard and make adjustments, and she beat us a couple times. We beat her in the season, and she beat us in the state finals. And then Alex didn't want to go to Fargo, and I had to talk her into it. I told her, we're gonna beat Burton. We just had to you wrestle to do the right things and to beat her. And then she did in Fargo, and it was kind of really rewarding because she did exactly what we planned, and she worked hard for it, and she was motivated, and it paid off.
Yeah. So, alrighty, guys. I think we're good. I don't want to keep Jimmie any longer. Got him on for about an hour now. So, you got anything more for us, Josh?
No. Anything else, Jimmie? You guys host a tournament this year?
Yeah. We have the Battle of Birmingham. In January, it's like one of the last tournaments of the season there. It's like the 19th of January. We usually have a really good turnout. I think I might be going to Esperanza as well, because I just want to see Josh. So
yeah,
probably
we're gonna have some out of state girls coming already committed. We've got a couple Fargo finalists. We're trying to create kind of like some super matches with some different some girls. We're trying to just make it fun and kind of make a highlighted. We have a spotlight finals mat, so it's gonna be good.
Awesome.
We're looking at an invitational rotational. That's what we're calling it. So kind of like 5 counties where you had to have an invite to come. Well, it'll be rotational, where hopefully to get at least a 3-way round robin with some of the best girls. We're helping Josh out with that. So I think that's going to be pretty awesome to have. Where else are you guys looking to go this year, Jimmie?
We're trying to. I mean, we're going to be good. So I want to go to the best tournaments. Napa's kind of tough for us because it's so far. Everybody's always like Napa, but I'm like, that's like an 8 or 9 hour trip, to Napa. So I don't know. I mean, our school will really let us go far like that. We go to the TOC every year. I really like it. I get to see some of my old girls wrestle in college, and there's some good competition. And we'll probably go to the Queen of the Hill, Carter, Esperanza. I don't know. There's a couple of spots I'm trying to fill still. Like, I don't know about Iron Lady, or there's a couple of those in there that I don't really know exactly where we're going yet, because tournaments that we used to go to got canceled. So
everything changed. Dates changed this year. Everything.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, Jimmie and I were talking about it. There's some programs that had some turnover coaches kind of let the tournaments fade away, and it's created kind of a hole in people's lineups, their schedules. So yeah, that's understandable. But
what weekend is La Puente? You were talking about that last time.
I think La Puente. Let me check here for a second. Let's see here.
Is it still like the 15th of?
It's usually around that time. Give me a second. Let me text Jim Lane. I can ask him real quick if he'll respond before we get out of here. But yeah, it's generally like that second week in December. I think second or third week in December. It's usually when it is, and it was pretty good last year too. So, there we go.
We go to the TOC around that weekend, so it's just nice for me to go home. I mean, I went to Cache Valley one year because my uncles coached there, and so so we went out there, which was a lot of fun because I get to see my family, which is nice.
Nice.
All right, to get up to the Bay Area.
Yeah, get back to see your people, huh?
Yeah, I'm a big deal there, you know.
Get to be a big fish, huh?
Right. You know, when I came to LA, nobody knew who I was, and it was kind of weird. Referees were like yelling at me, and when I'm in the Bay Area, I know all the referees. They ref me when I was wrestling, and it's kind of like a culture shock when you're like, oh, you're well known in the wrestling community, and then I get to LA and it's like on an island almost where nobody kind of knew anybody outside of LA a whole lot. So
yeah, I know Jim Thrall got rather upset with me at State this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, when in our match when my girl was wrestling your All-American, we had two All-Americans wrestling each other, and it was in the middle of the match, and I questioned Jim Thrall, and he stood up and got all huffy and puffy, and I was like, hey, dude, relax, it's all the match, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal. Jim Lane says December 21st and 22nd.
Oh, okay, right before Christmas then, huh?
Yeah, it's right before Christmas.
Hey, Jimmy,
Jimmy,
is some of that wolf swag gonna go your way?
Are you gonna be repping the wolf swag and some track or some leggings?
Put some tights on, like Mark, that cool stuff.
Me wearing tights? No, you won't see that. But I'm open to whatever Jeff wants to do as far as it's funny. I showed him a lot of our stuff. He's like your gear is boring, because our stuff's pretty simplistic, But I know the kids love all the craziness and all the designs. So at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about the kids. So whatever they want, I'm 100% for.
Oh man, he's gonna see him in some funky flicker Patriot stuff.
Some white jumpsuits with some matching shoes, something like that.
Already got
he's into the retro look. He likes the 80s stuff, so bring some of that stuff back.
Hey, I think everybody's gonna. Let's see here. Where are you at? I'm trying to bring up the photo. Come on.
Richard's photo.
Yeah, there we go. Hang on.
Which one?
God, you guys can see it right now. It's come on, where'd you go? My computer's being silly right now. There we go. So we're gonna show everybody what this looks like. Come on, switch over. There we go. There we go. We're gonna have some of that action. Oh gosh, it won't blow up anymore. It's terrible. It was such a gem. I'll have to put it on as our default. But
oh my gosh.
All right, guys. I'll let you guys go. But thanks a lot, Jimmy, for coming on again. We appreciate it. We appreciate everybody. If everybody could like and share and subscribe to the podcast. We're trying to push it through iTunes, but they're taking a minute. I think if we get more likes and shares, we'll be able to get that pushed through so everybody can download it. I don't have to keep doing more work. So, but anyhow, from anybody else got anything before I let everybody go? Everybody good?
Thanks for coming on, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
No problem. I had a lot of fun.
All right, awesome.
Try to get Mario on here next time.
Yeah, I miss Mario.
Oh, I think probably smell him out somewhere. I don't know. He's probably, I don't know. Probably
I'm mad again.
probably can't find the screen. He's got something in his eye. It looks really glassy. But anyhow, alrighty, guys. You guys have a good night.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.